I, with my background in marketing, realized that there was much more to business than purely the referrals. The referrals were very important. And next month, we're going to be spending a whole month on referral strategies. And I also, in meeting lots of marketing people, realized there's a lot of hype and bullshit talked about people. I don't know whether it is that. I think it's a lot of people come from a corporate background where they've got big budgets, etc. And they think they can apply that approach to small businesses and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who have got limited budgets. So I was always at odds with that because I was focused on what everybody needs, everybody on this call needs. And that's, I think, an understanding, a clarity of their marketing, because marketing is, if you haven't got your marketing right, you won't have a business next year. And I'll be as bold to say that. And in making it simple, it's as simple as this. And these stages we've already been through. Recordings of those are online, and if you want to catch up on those, you're more welcome to. But this is where we're always going to theme our meetings around. The first thing everybody needs to do is think about, what is the audience I really need to get in front of? What am I going to say, and how am I going to say it? Now, that could be online, it could be offline, it could be using LinkedIn, it could be using your website, it could be at networking meetings. Who is the audience that really can best use your services? You need to be in front of. Your services will not appeal to everybody and anybody. You need to be very clear in your own mind who that audience is, because if you're going to ask the rest of us to put you in front of that audience, if you're not clear, we're never going to be clear. But then how do you get the audience, with all the distractions they've got, to get noticed? How do you get them to lean in and engage in conversation? Because it's in those engagements where you add value, you build trust, you build your relationship with that audience. This is where a lot of people fail. They fail because they don't stay engaged long enough, or their engagement is more salesy than value. And of course, that engagement will could at some point lead to a sale. And I think it's very important to know that path. And we're going to be talking today about sales. In the future, of course, and by the way, most people ended at that point. They think that that's it, so they go back to another audience, more engagement, and that's that first three circles of the loop. And what happens is that existing customers are almost ignored. They're taken for granted. And when all of us feel taken for granted, we move elsewhere. So if somebody's put their trust in you, they've got great value, you want to make sure you hold on to that client. So retention is something that not many marketing people talk about. So we will be talking about ways in which you can retain your clients for the future. Retention is key because, and I see this on retail are terrible at the moment, terrible at this retention. And if anybody wants to debate that, rather than take up time now, I'm happy to debate. But if you've got people that really love you and you stay in touch with those people and you continue to add value and value and value, who better to introduce you to a new audience than those people? Now, other people can introduce you, and I'm planning that people on this call will be able to introduce some of the other people on the call. And I can certainly teach you to do that because I've been doing it for the last 18 years. But who else better than your clients? How many people here actually ask clients for an introduction to somebody else? So that is the basic journey. It's a simple one. It's 5 steps. And anything you've been doing or planning to do, you could write underneath any of those circles. You could debate, you could discuss. You could identify where you're leaking business in any of those areas with the right conversations. And if you're leaking business and you fix that leak, by definition, you'll do more business, especially if you develop the skills in these areas. So today we're going to be talking about sales. So it's that getting in, leaning in, and that engagement process that leads to the sales. And so I'm going to give you just a few thoughts, and then we're going to open up for conversations. How many people on the call just say a yes or a no, feel comfortable with sales process?
No.
Anybody else?
No.
A lot of, well, so far all no's. I imagine everybody else is more comfortable or not. I think the first thing we've got to get right is the mindset and attitude. Now, I've been in sales for a long time. I started out in menswear sales. I moved into the hairdressing world. Somebody paid me a lot of money, well, a reasonable amount of money, more money than I was earning before. They gave me a car and expenses just to chat to girls all day. And I thought that was a job. It didn't, I actually had done it for free because I was very shy in those days. And I've always been very comfortable with it. And I didn't know why. My two sons, one is a creative head in an international advertising agency. In fact, he just won the Samsung account for that agency, so he's not bad. And my youngest son is in construction. And my youngest son, 6'4", very good looking. He's very personable, takes after his mother. And he would be brilliant in sales, but he's never wanted to go into it. And when I asked him why, he said, I don't want to be talking people into something they don't want or can't afford. And that was his mindset. And I failed tremendously as a father to give him that impression. You see, people love to buy. Everybody here loves to buy, but we don't like to be sold. And I want you to remember that. People love to buy, but they don't like to be sold. And if you feel you're being sold to, you are. And I saw that so many times at business networking meetings with visitors. You didn't get that with members because they were taught not to. But I also see it on online networks that I go to right now. I see it on LinkedIn tremendously. The number of people approach me, and I guess you've had the same, where they're into a pitch straight away. They want to connect, but already they're trying to sell to you. Now, what's the difference between being sold to? What can anybody give me a thought about what that difference is?
Yeah,
I can as well. I think selling is the art of making buying easier, surely.
That's a good one, Rod. Anybody else? I can't see you at the moment. I've only seen the screen.
I think when it comes to, if you're being sold to, then basically whoever's doing it comes with their own agenda, and they don't really hear or listen. They're just kind of tunnel vision.
I like that, Zoe. So I think they've got their own agenda. In other words, they've got their sales pitch.
Yeah,
absolutely spot on.
And it's like you're just another digit or number. So you're not even, you could be anyone really. So there's no tailoring or care for you at all.
It's like we started this meeting and I purposely asked you what you wanted to get from it. And everybody wants something different, but somebody that's got their own agenda treats everybody the same. They imagine everybody's going to want what they've got, so they just spew it out, they spew it all over you. I think their own agenda, I think that's a better definition than I've got actually. But here was my definition. Our approach should be about helping people to buy, because if people love buying, we should help them buy. But how do we do that?
We put them in an emotional state where they just want what you have.
I think that's partly it, and I'm glad you've included the emotion here. You see, it's not about features and benefits. And anybody that's been on these sales courses, and I've been on sales courses, and I've actually run sales courses, and they always talking about features. That's what the product is, rather than how the people will benefit. And so we get into a features and benefit, and that almost becomes a sales pitch in itself. It feels as if it's a sales pitch.
I think it's establishing needs, surely. If they don't need what you've got, you're never going to sell it, are you?
Well, that's one of the areas, Rod, and I'm going to come back to that. But it's about transformation. I think the whole sales process is about where somebody is now and where they want to be after you have introduced your product or service. If you think about that, right now, if you're completely satisfied with it, for instance, my television, I'm delighted with my television. I'm delighted with my current Mac purchases. I'm not in any way dissatisfied with them. I have no need. So I'm quite happy now. I don't have an after. I don't have an after. But what you can't hear in the corner is a dripping tap. And the reason you can't hear the dripping tap is because I put a cloth under where it drips so I don't hear it. And it's dry. I've been putting up with this for about 4 weeks. And I want that tap fixed. And I'm going to get it fixed because now a bit of urgency's cropped in. So what I want is, what I've got now is an annoying drip in the background, which I keep suppressing. But afterwards, what do I want? I want it to stop.
Isn't it about providing solutions to problems as opposed to providing products and services?
Well, the reason why I said products and service is that some people on this call either sell a product, but mainly sell a service. But you actually are right. It is about providing solutions. You see, before we can sell anything to anybody, first of all, we've got to be in front of the right audience that we know has a problem that we can fix. And you'll only know if they've got a problem that they can fix is through understanding. It's by understanding, by asking questions, observing and listening and taking an interest to where somebody is now, but also to find out where they could be. Now, they may not be aware of where they could be. They may not know they've got a problem. They may not even know, they might know they've got a problem and not know they've got a solution. So it's about their understanding of what's possible and the problem and the fact it can be sorted with your help. And it's you understanding what that problem is. And you can't do that without you take a genuine interest and that you ask questions. And this is where somebody that's selling at you, that's got their own agenda, is not doing. They're not started from this point. And that's why, that's the difference between helping somebody buy rather than selling them your stuff. And Richard mentioned it a number of times, depending on where we're coming from and how we buy and what our personality is it's very easy to sell on the logic of everything. But in fact, people don't buy on logic, and this has been scientifically proven. We buy essentially on emotion and then justify on logic. And I think that's one of the challenges that accountants, financial people, solicitors, engineers, they all have this issue because they work very logically, very rationally, and very often they'll sell on that basis rather than understanding the emotion. And that doesn't say that logic is not part of a sales story, but if you leave emotion out of it, how somebody's feeling and how they could be feeling after. And we've talked previously about the afters. What people buy is, that's why people are not interested in what you do. They're only really interested in what they're left with after you've done what you do. So what is it that stops people? Apart from the not realizing that they've got a problem, or maybe not realizing that there is a solution, and that's what we're there to point out. What is it that stops people? Well, first of all, they don't see a need. I think Rod mentioned that. If people don't see a need for your service, then they're in the status quo. They're quite happy where they are. Maybe our role is to show them there's a need by conversation and by observing and building a relationship. And very often we can see it in somebody else, or how somebody could do something better, or what they're struggling with before they see it themselves. And the closer you are with somebody, the easier that is. Secondly, they don't see an urgency. I've not seen an urgency to fix this tap because I've got a cloth there that, you know, I can put underneath there. So sometimes people will know they've got a problem, but there's no urgency. And I think that is quite key, that you, something there, is that, that sometimes you're in a situation where you've been in discussion with somebody, they see the logic and they see the emotion, but they still don't see the urgency. And that's why you'll find people will put deadlines on things. Now, whether that's a scarcity deadline, whether that's a price going up, whether there's a special package you've got over a particular period, this is very much applicable online, of course, but urgency is a key factor. It's a key emotion, but the biggest emotion is no desire. They don't see the point. They don't see, they're not sold on the afters. They don't see any compulsion, any emotion in there. They're not. I think that's why sometimes in a conversation, when somebody's got a pain, you really have got to dig into that pain and really find out how it really is making them feel, how that is affecting their business. So if people, for instance, in my situation, I believe that lead generation is absolutely key. Having a process to reach out to people and stay in touch with those people, therefore have a system. I know the frustration emotion. I know the frustration and the agitation that and the anger that can create when they feel as if they're lost. They feel that they're in overwhelm. They don't know where they're up to. They can't think clearly. Those are all emotions. So if you don't point that out, they'll never have desire to change or to do anything. Now, sometimes people will tell you it's money. And I'll tell you, we're more fixated on money than our clients are. And the reason we do that is because we take for granted the value we bring, and we, especially when we're pricing for our own services, it's all right when you're pricing for a company. The company's already established those prices and you go and sell that. That's the price. But when it comes to selling your own services, we do often undersell ourselves because we focus on maybe what we think other people can afford. What somebody's got in their wallet is none of your business. And if somebody says, I really can't afford it, don't believe them. In some cases, it may be true. So it may be a timing thing, but in most cases, it's not. Because how many times have we bought something that we can't really afford, but we want to buy it? We don't need to buy it, we want it. And if it is that somebody says, I really can't afford it, or no money, it could be that we haven't really demonstrated or featured on the value that brings to their operation, because people buy on value, not on cost. That's why we should never really be exposing the price of a service before we know what they want from that service. And the number of times that when I was with BNI, and I'm not with BNI any longer, number of people, I'd ring somebody, I would invite them to a meeting and they'd say, well, how much is it going to cost? And I'd tell them it's 10, 15 pounds for breakfast. They said, no, if I want to be a member. I would never tell them. And I'd explain to them, I'm not being evasive, but how on earth can you make a judgment on a price before you know what that value brings? And I'm not asking you to be a member. I'm only asking you, do you want to meet some people, have breakfast with some people, and that'll cost you £15. Can you see the difference there? And I never, ever failed to have somebody attend that meeting as a result of that, because value comes first. And the other thing is, it could be that there's no trust. And that's why people on LinkedIn and people, when you're meeting people the first time, your focus must be on building trust, building relationship. And we've talked previously about how you do that. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give a breakout session with everybody. And this session is to do the following. You might want to take a short note on this. The session will be to educate your referral partners. I'm going to divide this up into 4s. And so it's we're not about you selling your service to anybody. We're about educating your referral partner. Now, in some breakouts, obviously what I want you to do is to get to know the other people on this call. And you want to get people on this call to educate people. And it's to educate people on your typical client and what their journey is. In other words, what are the typical fears that your clients have? What are the challenges that they have? What are the myths that they have about your business? What experiences they had in the past? So you might want to choose one of those people. And in fact, I've just changed my mind. I'm going to do it in 2s because otherwise you're not going to get through it all in time. So I'm going to do it in 2s. So think about your client journey, how you take them from their before, from where they are now to where they could be. What are the typical challenges, fears, myths, experiences? Choose one of them and explain and educate your partner how your service or how you personally help them by dispelling some of those myths, showing them how they can overcome that their fear is irrational and how you can overcome that. Show them maybe how their experience has not been a good one, but you can give them a better experience. We're all clear with that. And
Yep.
one of the things that we've been doing over the last few weeks has been talking about the emotion of these discussions and how important it is to include stories. So if you're able to do that, then that's fine. In actual fact, if you're thinking about a client, you don't have to give that person's name, but think of a client you've helped while you're explaining this and tell it as a story. And we'll see where we go from there. So I'm going to stop the share.